Are you someone that struggles when you come up against better players than you? Maybe you find it hard to play your best and never manage to win.
If so, then this is the video for you, as we're going to share 5 strategies to use when playing better players.
Yeah, these are what we've used to beat players higher ranked than us over the last few years. So let's get straight into strategy number 1.
This is a psychological one, and it's crucial to understand before we can move on to the other 4 strategies. It's essentially not overhyping who you're playing. And don't worry, if you do this, you're not alone, and it happens at all levels of the game. They're so good, I've got no chance.
I can't win this. He just won the club championships.
Believing you're going to lose before you've even stepped onto court is actually scientifically proven to make you more likely to lose.
Yeah, a guy called David Robson talks about a study done on the power of this expectation effect. Basically, there were 2 groups of people doing a fitness test. One group were told beforehand that they had better genes to complete the test, and then this group actually ended up performing better. So this shows that if you believe you'll do well, you'll actually be more likely to.
Yeah, there was also another study where athletes were told by their coaches that they were taking performance-enhancing drugs. We're not sure about the ethics on this one, but even though they were a placebo, they actually performed better because of what they were believing.
Now, we're not saying to be so confident that you become cocky. And of course, there is a fine line between being confident and being unrealistic.
Yeah, but you might just need to reframe your thinking to help you steer away from overhyping your opponents. And we have 2 action points for this. First is to pretend like you're speaking to a friend when you're actually speaking to yourself. You probably wouldn't go up to your friend and say, "You've got no chance here. Did you know he's just won the club championships?" Well, hopefully you wouldn't, unless you're an amateur player about to play a pro. What you'd more likely say is, "You can definitely win this. I've seen you play at this level before." So you need to practice saying this to yourself too.
Our second action point is to think about playing your game and not just thinking about your opposition or what it might mean if you win or lose. If I win this, I'll be selected for the team. Come on.
Oh my god, if I lose this 21-0, that'll be so embarrassing.
And don't worry, we've found ourselves still occasionally falling into this mindset when playing against the top 10 in the world. But we try to bring our focus back to what we need to do to play well. Exactly what you need to focus on is very individual, but one thing everyone should be thinking about is strategy number 2.
Yeah, this is to get a good length on your lifts and hit them right into the corner. If you lift short and not very accurately to each side, your opponent would only need to move around half a metre. But if you lift well, this increases to them having to move 5.2 metres. That is a huge difference. Doing this can massively ease the pressure you feel on court by not only giving you more time, but also making your opponents hit more mistakes. So, what are our action points for this strategy?
First, from love all, you need to find the back line. If you hit one out, it's not a disaster, as long as you then learn from this for the rest of the match. This is really important to do. When we played the Olympic bronze medalists from Japan, it felt like their attack was so good, and it was, but it was made a lot better by the fact that all of our lifts were short, and we didn't lift a single shot out of the back. So now, if we feel like we're struggling in defence, we always make sure to hit one lift a lot harder to really understand how much power we should use.
Now the second action point is a bit more advanced, and this is to add some deception to your lifts. If you play better players who read the game well, then as soon as you start to play your lift, they'll already be moving into this position. This is why you can't make your lift obvious. If you do, they'll be in a good position to play a good shot. But if you add some deception, they'll likely take it slightly later, which will make you feel much more comfortable.
Yeah, when we got a good length and played some deceptive lifts to the current world number 1 Feng, we found we could actually cope with his attack pretty well. So to practice your deception, we have an old but gold video which we'll link in the description below.
Okay, let's move on to strategy 3. So, when you play better players, you'll probably feel like they're hitting their shots earlier, playing better shots, and getting more shots back, right?
Well, that's what we often feel like. And the common mistake from this is that you then think all of your shots need to be perfect just to win 1 point. And what often happens is you make a mistake as you're trying to play everything so close to the net or right on the line. And as you make more mistakes, you try even harder to win 1 point, causing you to make even more mistakes, and so on.
But believe it or not, you don't always need to hit a crazy winner, as there's often a lot more space than you think. For example, when we played the world number 1s, even though we felt under pressure, You can see here that there actually is space on the court to hit into. We just needed to be calm enough and patient enough to do this.
So, how do you get used to being calm and patient in rallies? Our top recommendation is to do competitive drills, aiming to do them faster than your normal match speed, whilst also being very consistent. If there's 2 or 3 of you, you can do drills like rear mid, mid-court control, defence. There's loads of different ones we've mentioned on the channel before. Again, we'll include links to these in the description below.
And once you have some drills in mind, you can choose one of our 2 favourite ways to make these a bit more competitive. Option 1 is where you have to do 20 shots in a row with no mistakes. But if you make a mistake, then you go back to 0 and start again. Option 2 is where you see who can make the least unforced errors in 90 seconds and put a forfeit on it. Sprints, wall sits, or picking up all of the shuttles after the session.
Yeah, this adds an extra competitive element, and the more you can do to replicate match situations, the better. When we went to China to train with the Olympic champions, Zheng Wei was unbelievable at these drills, but even he was reminding himself to stay patient.
Be patient.
That's how important this strategy is, and doing these drills at higher speeds with patience in mind will make you feel like you have more time when you come up against better players in a match.
Now, as we mentioned in the previous point, it probably feels like your opponents have certain shots that they're really good at, and also favourable formations if you're playing doubles. So, what you need to be able to do is disrupt this.
But how do you disrupt opponents that are better than you? Well, we have 3 suggestions. One is that if you're playing doubles, one player might be much better at the net and not great at the back, so you need to force them into this formation. This is actually something we did to disrupt the world number 1s. We tried to get Huang Dongping to the back, and then because she's not as comfortable there, she tried to force her way forwards, which created big gaps on the court. And if you're playing singles and your opponent is hitting lots of winners in attack, for example, then you need to try and not lift as much.
The second suggestion is to vary the pace of your attack. Often, better opponents will be comfortable in their defence, so using a lot of slices, half smashes, or even punch clears can disrupt their rhythm. And the third way is to try and control the tempo of the match, not always playing to their pace. This might be taking an extra second before returning, or maybe it's even speeding up in between points when you have the serve.
Yeah, even if your opponents are technically and physically better than you, you can still win by being tactically better. One thing we've discussed within our Patreon community is the notion of winning ugly. And we mention this because we think disrupting your opponents is part of winning ugly. So, being scrappy and finding unconventional ways to win.
Actually, an interesting discussion we had once. Comment below, what would you rather? Beat someone much better than you, but it's a really ugly performance? Or lose really closely, but the rallies are great? We'll share at the end which one we'd rather.
Now, our 5th strategy to beat opponents that are better than you is to learn from them. A psychologist called Albert Bandura developed the social learning theory, which shows that we learn by watching others, and we can imitate what they do well in order to be successful. So, by watching better players, you can learn from their techniques, tactics, and habits. For us, the first time we played senior international tournaments, we lost a lot of rallies within the first 3 shots. So, we went home and worked really hard on this by watching these better players, and then we practiced it until it became a strength of ours at these low-level international tournaments.
But then, when we came up against the world top 10, we realised we still had a lot to improve on. So again, we went home and tried to learn from them. One more bit of theory which we love and would highly recommend trying to implement yourself is the proximity principle. This essentially means surrounding yourself with people who challenge you and inspire you.
So this might be asking to join a better court at club night, or entering a tournament that might be a little bit too high for your current level. Remember, if it doesn't challenge you, it won't change you.
So, if you implement some or all of these 5 strategies, you'll have a much better chance of beating players that are currently better than you. And of course, it's important to still be refining your technical and tactical skills too. So we'll leave a playlist full of those videos here for you to watch next.
Lastly, if you found these 5 strategies insightful, then please drop this video a like, smash the subscribe button if you haven't already, so YouTube can serve you up with some more of our videos. Oh, and by the way, in a tournament, we'd of course always rather win ugly than lose and play well.